Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. Rassie Erasmus has officially given us a big injury update ahead of the Springbok season, and some very, very good news in that both Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu and Ethan Hooker are both set to be fit for the All Blacks Greatest Rivalry Tour and are apparently going to be back 4 weeks before that first test, which puts a due date for them return from injury towards the end of July, which means they could very well feature for their franchises against the All Blacks as they build up full fitness. Other good news is that Cobus Reinach is set to be back. Grant Williams is fully fit. Ebenezebeth, all good. The only long-term injuries of players who they do not expect to play this year is Kwagga Smith and Rassie Snyman, who are both had long-term injuries. And but Rassie Erasmus said that we don't need to panic because there's not this massive injury crisis that a lot of people are speaking about. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So we just had our first Rassie Erasmus press conference, and he gave us a very big injury update because obviously the current videos and articles and stories are the Springbok injury crisis. You know, we were worrying about Malcolm Marx, we were worrying about Ebenezebeth, we were worrying about obviously your Grant Williams, Cobus Reinach is injured, Rassie Snyman, Kwagga Smith. So many different players who've kind of been added to this very long injury list, and we weren't quite sure what the situation is. But Rassie has given us a genuine, update. And what he said, which was quite interesting, is he spoke about the fact that we need to be careful when we sort of worry about this sort of injury crisis, because he says if we look at the players who are going to be in the final sort of 23s and kind of the top 30 players, there's not that many players that are injured. He basically said that only Rassie Snyman and Kwagga Smith are players who are part of the regular 23 that are not set to play a game this year. He also mentioned that Ruan Fenter, interestingly enough, they were basically confirmed they were looking to try and give him game time in the number 4 jersey, and he's had a long-term injury and probably won't play this year, which is pretty heartbreaking for him when you think that we kept trying to find another option via Ebenezebeth, and it looks like they had said, well, that could very well be the option. So a really untimely injury for the youngster. But some further good news is that Cobus Reinach is set to be back. They said he could probably be fit for the England test, but they said they'll likely only bring him in after that. Or they did say that I don't think they had that discussion with Cobus just yet. But Ebenezebeth, absolutely no issue. Malcolm Marx is fully fit. Damian Willems is fully fit. Both Ebenezebeth and Damian Willems did not train this morning, but that is just a precaution and because of the amount of rugby that they've played, and that just sort of being Damien more than Eben, just giving them a bit of a rest. But he mentioned obviously no Frans Maherbe, no Trevor Nyakane, Marnus van der Merwe, long-term injury. He did mention Joanna Augustus, so lots of people who are worried about him not being involved, saying that he is injured and not quite ready yet. Henk van Wyk, a player they said is not potentially going to be ready for, or potentially will be ready for the All Blacks, hopefully against for the Lions will be able to play. Interesting enough, they also name drop Bronson Mills, who has not been a part of the squad, but is injured at the moment for the Lions, and obviously has done enough to impress the Springbok management. The fact that they have kind of dropped his name in it. He mentioned that the Hendrickses aren't currently fit. But basically that there's no injury crisis in inverted commas, and that come the All Blacks we're expecting a pretty full contingent, and that even the England series, for example, he actually said that their worry was more about how they're going to give game time to all the different players versus worrying about all the different injuries. So yeah, at the end of the day, Rassie Erasmus is very much not worried about the injuries at the moment and is more concerned about being able to rotate all the different players, being able to give them more game time throughout the rest of the year than anything else. So we probably just need to basically be a bit more calm and a bit less panicked. So, no Achia, no Kwaggas are two big losses. I mean, that's especially when you think about impact players. Those two players coming off the bench, part of the bomb squad, are a huge loss. But it opened up opportunities. Ruben van Heerden now coming into the squad. No Salman Murat because he's out and injured. There's opportunities here. I think if you look at like a Sima Mahashe, for example, and Bartlett Carney, two young flanks who have really sort of taken the URC by storm in the last 6 months, gotten themselves into a Springbok squad, might get an opportunity to take on the Barbarians or Zimbabwe next week. There's spaces in the squad that I think are there for the taking. They mentioned Dion Fourie as someone that they can always go back to, but he probably wouldn't be, in a final 23. It'd only be sort of in a second string side, which is quite interesting because everybody speaks about the fact, I always talked about the fact that, our strongest 23, and everybody said we don't have a strongest 23. Well, we do, and Rassie Erasmus spoke about the fact that, if we look at our injuries, you've got to look at players who would be in our final 23, and he said from those players, only 2 currently long-term injuries. Everybody else pretty much in and around. So, Sacha and Ethan Hooker, for example, players who are Sacha, I think would probably start against the All Blacks if he was in top form. I think Nani Leibok's got an opportunity now to really stake a claim on the back of an impressive year from him last year. Ethan Hooker is somebody who I think they really, really do rate, and he's going to have an opportunity to hopefully take on the All Blacks for the Sharks, which is a couple of weeks before the Bokke game, be able to go out, show what his form is like, show what he's worth, get himself in the mix. So the good news is that we don't need to panic, that there is no sort of massive injury crisis that we kind of fear that there is. And this is where I think we're going to see the Springboks reap the reward of Rassie building the kind of depth that we always speak about. The fact that he gives so many people chances means that in a situation like this, there's no need to panic. There are other players going to come in. And again, he said that his biggest worry is actually how does he give players game time versus worrying about the current injuries. So that's the major sort of update, and didn't really give too much away about the plans for the rest of the year. We will have the first 10 minutes of the press conference coming up on the channel a little bit later. So make sure you keep it locked on Forever Sports. You can join the WhatsApp community as well, where you'll get first look at the press conference. So link in the description. Make sure you come and join us over there as well. Please do smash a like on the video on the way out. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll chat to you soon.